Hey, welcome everyone. Appreciate you joining. We'll just give a customary minute to let a few other people file in, and then we'll get it kicked off. So we got Echo Patient with us, who's been an absolute stud with the countdown to Era 2.
Just 3 more weeks,
Good
right?
work. 3 more weeks.
The reliability's been unmatched. Alrighty. With that, we'll probably give it a chance to just get going, and then we'll let people sort of file in as we start. But we'll do a little around the horn per usual. Everybody say what's up. So I'll toss it over to AE.
Hey guys, have a nice evening. Thanks for tuning in again.
Hey,
Hey guys,
Mr. here.
sorry.
Yeah, happy Friday. Thanks for joining. Good to see you all.
Hey guys, it's Wally. Yeah, thanks for joining.
We were just talking before the call while he's over in the UK. His weather's not too good. UK weather I heard in the summer not too good. So apologies for anybody that's over there. Yeah, so I guess, kind of a timely topic this week, talking about security. Shout out Timmy Toes with the suggestion on the topic, and something that we always wanted to cover, and figured that there wouldn't really be a better week to cover it than kind of this week, considering the last sort of 7 to 10 days we've seen it all in the DeFi space. We've seen bugs, we've seen exploits, we've seen rugs, we've seen just about everything. Some notable ones were the Alchemix bug, where AL ETH wasn't actually backed by Ethereum. Stakehound, which is one of the largest ETH 2.0 staking services, that had their asset custodian lose funds. You had the saddle finance rug. So obviously all types of things going on in the security realm, and in the exploit realm, and the user fund safety realm. So great opportunity for kind of us to highlight some of the things about yAxis, and why its security is always a priority, how it's prioritized, and sort of what the value that ends up bringing back to the project and back to holders. So from there, I just want to give a quick overview of kind of the security features and practices, both today, and then kind of looking toward V3, and then we'll go over into some other components as well, and like I said, tying it back up with what that all kind of means for the broader picture. So obviously wanting to make sure that anything yAxis puts out there is audited. So we had the 2 audits in V2, and then gonna have audit for V3 launch. And then right now, sitting in V2, where not allowing any smart contract interactions, which mitigates flash loan risk, which is something that Yearn suffered from during their exploit. And we have a great old security blog that I linked to in one of the recent Weekly X articles, that kind of just goes through some of the major exploits, and how just the metavol is not prone or susceptible to any of those. So and a lot of that does come from the not allowing smart contract interactions. And then kind of moving forward to V3, basically broadly, smart contract interactions are not going to be allowed, but only for very specific kind of vetted or like whitelisted partners. That's sort of the one exception that meets certain security requirements. That's sort of the one exception which will allow us to kind of open up to new pools of capital, but retain sort of the security, and mitigate flash loan risk. So that's like one slight change coming in V3. And then also looking ahead as well, the halt flag mechanism, which we've talked about a little bit, but basically this mechanism would be if malicious governance were to kind of like malicious actors were to kind of take over governance, and elected a malicious actor as a strategist of the vaults. Basically, there's going to be 7 days before the change actually would take place, which would allow users to kind of withdraw funds as they needed. And then also a halt flag could be triggered. And basically, once triggered, the halt flag only permits fund withdrawals by the users, and so it would mitigate any risk of a malicious actor or malicious governance. So that's part of that decentralization pathway, but doing it in a smart, secure way. Because obviously decentralization and that whole decentralized management is a long-term vision, and you want to be able to set parameters around that to make sure that's able to happen, but just able to happen securely and safely. And then Chainlink's keepers, obviously integrating those, looking down the line, and that just going to enable more automation, which is just again focusing on that decentralization of fund management of the vaults. By automating a lot of those processes, you sort of enable greater decentralization, and then looking at quicker response times, and if something gets exploited and can quickly kind of move the funds to safety. So. And then lastly, just sort of like decentralized management in itself adds another layer of security, because there needs to be like a review period and a conversation and a vote for strategies and things to get added. So that sort of layer of sort of protection and kind of everyone taking a pause and thinking through is important. So and then kind of moving on to those are sort of the nitty gritty kind of features or specific things about the vaults today, and then about the plan for V3, and then looking into some more broader topics. So one we'll touch on real quick is kind of ImmuneFi. So we've talked a bit about that with the ongoing bug bounty and how that's able to incentivize white hats to if they see any type of vulnerability, they can preemptively kind of notify us and then receive a bounty for that. So sort of a preemptive preventative measure just in case. Actually 88 MPH the other day had like had a bug actually found by an ImmuneFi white hat, and they were able to safely and preemptively secure users' funds. So nice to see that system and mechanism actually working as intended. And then in addition to the bug bounty, yAxis is sort of a leader in this and being part of the ImmuneFi War Room, which is their crisis response hotline. So another way prioritizing sort of like preemptive preventative measures. And then another big topic, it's something that we've discussed a little bit a few times here and there, specifically in kind of week 8 we talked about insurance a bit, but we still kind of get a lot of questions on that. So wanted to give sort of a level set and refresh as to what insurance would actually mean for us, and what it would kind of enable, and how it functions. So basically, you know, the TLDR on it is like speculative capital ensures the more risk adverse capital. So some event happens, let's say an underlying strategy is exploited, then the speculative capital is used to kind of backstop the more risk adverse capital. So how that's kind of done is, vault users are able to lock their vault token, which is their share of the vault, in a separate contract, which would be used to credit the remaining holders in the case of an insurance event, as determined by governance. So again, insurance event would be like an underlying strategy getting exploited. Then the users that are locking their vault token in a separate contract, are crediting or backstopping the other holders, so the more risk adverse holders. And then so as a reward for doing that, this kind of speculative capital would earn additional yield. So that's sort of the incentive built in for those users to want to collateralize or backstop the other participants. And then if an insurance event does happen, like those users who are backstopping the system in a way, like they don't necessarily lose all of their capital. They're simply just kind of locked in until the debt is paid off. It's a very like market driven solution, and it's similar to a tranching implementation, which kind of allows the vault users themselves to collateralize the insurance, like it's keeping it within the system. That way you don't have to go to a third party and hope that they consider it an insurance event, or hope that they'll pay you out, or deal with that whole process. It's just, and you don't have to deal with the time frame and re-upping insurance and all of that, all of those things that kind of go with dealing with a third party, that are very against the whole, don't trust verify type mentality that we're used to here in DeFi. So wanting to kind of avoid all that for the users, streamline the process, make it more efficient, built into the vaults, built into the yield. And it also avoids any need for kind of collateralization to be put on the yAxis token or the stakers, which many other projects are trying to do. And it basically just forces you to sell your own token at the worst time too, because that's the collateral that's backstopping everyone. So avoiding the need for that implementation, avoiding the need to go to a third party. You're probably thinking, okay, all of this security focus, that's great. What does it really mean for yAxis? How does it help us accrue value? Um, so if you're looking at like attracting institutional capital, right, going back to our week 7 episode, we went through yields in traditional finance, like even low single digit yields look attractive to institutions. So they just don't want to take risk and they don't have the time or expertise to navigate DeFi, but they want, DeFi yields. So yAxis moving to like automated DAO directed management with this extensive security focus is a great solution and a great fit for them. So it allows them to kind of park capital, generating obviously TVL and revenue. And then also like kind of hammered home on this a few times, but sort of as a security as like a competitive advantage and risk adjusted yield is kind of a really important concept. We've talked about it a few times, but yields are sort of presented in DeFi like in a uniform, just nominal fashion. Like it makes it seem like all yields are the same and you just pick the highest yield. But like, not all yields are built the same. So a yield with kind of more risk, more uncertainty, less regard for security is going to yield a worse return profile than a slightly lower yield that's backed by a security focused approach. So, people kind of pop in the Discord all the time, like insert Polygon farm that offers 5,000% APY. Like, how will you compete with that? And I think as you saw with like Titan, we usually don't have to compete with them for very long, and that sort of resolves itself. But again, like even if that were to hang on a little bit longer, like not all yields are built the same. Like 5,000% APY with a high chance of principal loss is not really 5,000% APY on a risk adjusted basis. And so that's how like anybody that's allocating real capital, that's how they kind of think through this stuff. And if all users were just chasing that like highest nominal yield, basically they, you know, we like ourselves and Yearn and others would basically have no TVL and as you know, that's not the case. Like, obviously yAxis, Yearn, some of these other leaders in the space obviously have lower nominal yields than the Polygon farm of the week that has 5,000% APY. But they're rational actors in the space that are kind of doing that risk adjusted yield for themselves and determining that where they want to allocate capital and do it in the smartest way for their return profile. And this all just really highlights the value proposition of yAxis and yAxis providing the attractive yields and higher yields than some what you would consider maybe competition, and then on top of that, industry leading security means that yAxis wins on a risk adjusted basis. And looking forward to seeing that develop more in V3, not only in more flexible strategy management and adding of strategies, but also through a wider range of assets, which will grow TVL and then again revenue for the yAxis stakers, which are the vault governors. So that's sort of the to close the loop and what it all means for everyone involved. So I'll kind of pause there and get into the questions that were kind of asked in advance. We had a lot of questions asked in advance, a lot of really good ones. So we'll try to take some time to touch on them all. And then if we have any time left, we'll try to get to some live as well. So I'll get started with the first one that was kind of asked in advance was, Flynn asked, given the continued run of hacks and rugs across the DeFi market, do you think this is something that is continually overlooked by many developer teams and starting out on a project, or is this just something a consumer naively is investing in a forex without doing any due diligence. So sort of many different reasons why a lot of these security issues are coming about. I would say one of the major things is just that Solidity is very niche, like the language that Ethereum smart contracts are coded in. It's very niche. It's new. It's not a lot of people have a lot of experience. And there's a real lack of developers that have experience in it. And so that's why we're so lucky to have, you know, TNC, and he's a Solidity OG and a professional. And if you don't have the Solidity experience, you're it's sort of that naivety and sort of complacency that leads to these exploits. Because like an experienced Solidity dev kind of sees the holes in the contract where others don't, and therefore knows how to exploit it. So it knows where the vulnerabilities are. So that's kind of the basis of why I think a lot of these things are happening. So it's like any new space, if you want to, if it's brand new, there's going to be mistakes made, and kind of in DeFi, when there's mistakes, there's money at risk. So that's why we're kind of lucky to be positioned where we are versus some of the other projects. And so Flynn also asked a series of other questions. As a consumer investor, are there some key elements to look out for to ensure a certain degree of safety, e.g. like an audit by X or Y? Is there a gold standard to security? If so, what is it? So basically, one of the biggest things is just like developer track record. Like kind of once you, like we were just talking about, it's a pretty, Solidity is like relatively new and niche. So it's like if the developers behind the project, the team behind the project, if they have experience pushing code to mainnet and doing it effectively and safely and consistently, then that's like your biggest thing. And also time operating at scale. So like, has it had a target hunchback for long enough, operating with 10, 20, 30, 50 million dollars plus of TVL, and operated securely and efficiently without a problem. So that's like a first kind of major thing. And then, on the audit side, like, Trail of Bits is the leaders in the audit space, but their wait times are often 6 months or more. And so just like a solid audit by somebody like a Quant Stamp is usually good. Quant Stamp gave us a really helpful audit. Haiichi was less so. But like, just know that just because something had an audit doesn't mean that it benefited the project. Like, you want to make sure that some of the major issues are addressed. And then also, again, it's really going to come down to the experience of the developer and track record there. That's really the sort of gold standard, is a developer that's safely and consistently pushing code to mainnet and doing it in an effective manner. So and then Flynn also asked a question about insurance and how that all works, and I hope that sort of discussion at the outset helped with that. But if anything else needs to be clarified, just let me know.
Yeah, so just to add one thing to that, as far as security goes, or more like your safety from rogue devs, one important thing to look out for is that contracts are managed by team multisig instead of just one address. So, or multiple addresses that can all independently interact with the contract, so that if there's one dev that decides to rug the project, they have to do it with cooperation of the other devs. And that's something that I think that's what happened with Saddle Finance, didn't it, Summer? So it was one dev.
Yeah, exactly. It was one rogue because it wasn't a multi-sig.
Yeah, so you definitely watch out for multi-sigs. If the team is using multi-sigs, then you're most likely safer than if they're not.
Yeah, no, it's a great nuance as well. Like you said, that it's relevant to the saddle thing I mentioned at the outset. Yeah, and then I am that asked, give insight into the marketing plan for V3 launch. Is there a centralized exchange listing underway? If so, when? So basically, sort of the marketing plan for V3 launch is sort of kind of seems like we've sort of decided, and team has decided to go a little bit more concentrated around the V3 launch and really make it like a big event and a lot of noise the entire week sort of leading up. The goal is, the thing behind that is like, make a lot of noise right now because it's sort of given the broader market conditions, it's tough to sort of stick out. And things have calmed down and some eyes have sort of been taken off the space, given the pullback. So wanted to kind of, lump everything together to really make some noise that's going to kind of penetrate the sort of broader market drawdown. And obviously, teasing too early as well, as you saw with kind of Uni V3, can have some drawbacks as well. So, tease the same thing too many times over and over again, like too publicly, and it doesn't necessarily, work out. So, and the centralized exchange listing, we talked about this a few times, but, it's not, at this stage, it's very, very expensive, and it's also not, it's like a top tier. Could be more feasible post V3 with like some more buzz, some more TVL. But it's a big cost and it's upkeep, like it's ongoing cost as well. So want to think about how to allocate resources most efficiently, and we might, be better fit to see how the trading experience is on L2s as sort of a low cost option for people and kind of focus there. It seems to be the trend is kind of decentralization, so I think we want to probably ride that. And then Sushi T asked a bit about, what do you think the main regulatory challenges will be for DeFi projects? Are you thinking about scenario solutions already? So, it seems like proving decentralization is the most important thing in that sense. And, the automation focused on DAO directed management in V3 should kind of position yAxis well there. And then if you're working with fiat on ramps, just ensure that they are compliant. That's kind of the major key. Bobby kind of added some thoughts here as well. He's still kind of this is the last week he's in a location where he can't join in, but so he basically mentioned that some of the people that himself and the team has worked with want KYC for regulations, but the majority kind of don't. It's sort of the deciding factors where the jurisdiction is that the party is kind of operating in. So there's some jurisdictional arbitrage to kind of be happening there, and some places that want to be a little bit more open to crypto and sort of understanding the ethos behind crypto and all of that and want to be accepting. Some of those locations are obviously more accepting, whereas others are less so. So it sort of depends on who the party that you're interacting with and where they're located. But generally speaking, sort of back to the decentralization point, like regulations likely they're going to affect the centralized exchanges and sort of the places where there's like fiat to crypto, but basically DeFi, anyone can interact with it, and you can't stop somebody from interacting with a smart contract on Ethereum. So that's sort of the basis of how this all operates. So not really that relevant to us, more for like a fiat on ramp or something like that. And if we needed to work with a compliant fiat on ramp at some point, which is I think a goal of the project, obviously ensuring they would be compliant, but not necessarily as relevant for a smart contract that's on Ethereum. So and then Flynn asked a bit about hurdles for integrating a fiat on ramp, and there's no hurdles kind of for integrating in terms of like hurdles on our side. Is sort of just the level of integration that we want to kind of pursue, like how integrated directly into the services that yAxis wants to provide versus how external, and just ensuring that they're a good partner and an experienced partner, and they've worked well with other organizations. So just kind of due diligence and vetting on that side, but it's not really anything that we have to do to sort of change the core product. There's just different levels of integration, like Wire, for example, is less so versus like delegated wallets like Magic and Fortmatic. And then building and maintaining our own wallet and obtaining a license there is probably not worth it, not the route that we want to go. We want to partner with somebody that's third party that kind of specializes at that and has all of the licenses and regulatory clearance and all of that. Then getting into Metamagic, asked another series of questions. We had a bunch of bunched questions this week, but they're all good. So Metamagic asks auto compounding coming to the platform. And then also asked, basically saying Andre has kind of been a big thing about partnership and integration in DeFi. Is yAxis looking for ways to partner and integrate with somebody like Convex? And so, first, basically ended up going with the idea to fork battle tested code, which is curves gauges and the security that comes with that. So kind of at this stage, it's not looking like, at least off the jump, that auto compound is going to be able to get off the ground, just because like you want to you want to retain the security and integrity and all the tokenomics advantages that come with curves gauges. And so that's sort of the trade-off that had to be made there. And I think any day of the week people would take the tokenomics incentives that come with gauges and the security of battle tested code. And then so on the partner integration side, obviously, like I was saying kind of at the start, a convex strategy is an opportunity in V3, especially as like I was mentioning, the strategy management gets a lot easier in and more scalable in V3. And then more questions by Metamagic would be, with the migration away from the ERC20, sort of what new features of the token standard will be utilized. What does the MetaVault token represent? So vault tokens will be ERC 677s in V3 for gas efficiency. And then the vault tokens represent your share of the vault, and they accrue value over time as the underlying strategies are harvested and compounded. And then the option for an option for a V3 strategy as well would be like the tri-pool, because Metamagic also asked about tri-pool, and it's an option for a V3 strategy if the yield is attractive. And then last question I'll try to run through really quick, for the ones that were asked ahead of time, be Timmy Toes, who basically said, all I hear right now is don't go near yield farms, they are dangerous. And like how is yAxis going to be able to counter this perception? And so yeah, I mean, like we talked about at the start, it's been a little bit of a tumultuous time in the space, but I think with that sort of comes opportunity and opportunity for differentiation, and I think that's where yAxis really stands out. So kind of at a high level, like when people make broad sweeping statements like that with no nuance, they're generally overlooking opportunity. And in addition, Convex, for example, has accrued 3.9 billion TVL in 2 months. So I wouldn't necessarily say that yield farming is dead or anything like that. There's just nuance. It's reputable projects with strong security are seeing inflows, and high yield rug pulls, with no regard for security and not an experienced team behind it, or they're not seeing those inflows, and people are kind of pulling back from those places. So I think we'll kind of let the market incentives sort of do the work for us in some sense. Obviously, marketing the competitive advantage that we have there, but at the end of the day, the market incentives are going to decide. That's always the deciding factor. And V3 vaults are built to provide attractive yield, especially initially, should like at low TVL, and that just attracts depositors in itself, and then proves the vaults can operate securely and effectively, and builds on a reputation of secure and effective V1 and V2, which kind of builds the whole trust in Lindy and that whole effect. And then we also have partners like Cosimo X, helping to bridge institutional capital and pitching security to them, which convincing a few of those folks is brings in more capital than thousands of people. So that's something to bring as well. And then the longer, like I said, the longer you operate at scale and operate securely at scale, the more you kind of just build that security moat and that reputation. And that's what it's about. Like, it's always going to be about nuance. It's never going to be, a broad brush, one size sort of fits all. And that's where we, really stand out and have a competitive advantage. So with that, I'll look at a few of the, questions live. So yeah, so saddle rugged. Yep, that did happen. Yeah, well, not broadly, but partially, yes. And then like A mentioned, it was due to a one rogue developer, and not not multi-sig. So Domi asked when Lambo, soon TM. And then Misam asked yAxis is multi-sig, correct? Yes, it is. So yeah, with that, I think we'll wrap things up for this week, and appreciate all the questions. If anybody has a last minute question they want to get in before the buzzer, feel free to do it right now. But otherwise, thank you everyone for joining, and appreciate the support as always. Hopefully this was helpful to kind of give a full, complete, kind of holistic rundown of all the security prioritization, security features and focus, and then kind of closing the loop as to how that ties value and allows yAxis to kind of stick out amongst the crowd. So all right, well, thank you very much everyone, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for
Thanks,
tuning in,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for joining.
Enjoy your weekend.
Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
everyone.